welcome to Olsem Wanem. Non-government organizations have for so long worked alongside the government to deliver services and address issues affecting people not only in the urban areas but as well as those in rural areas. Most of them strive to operate on funds sourced from abroad, yet fill up necessary gaps far and wide in many social, environment, and economic sectors left by the government. We look at some of these NGO groups and the work that they do.
In a country characterized by development inequalities, social isolation, economic marginalization, raging conflicts for resources and political power, to name a few, NGOs emerge as relieving forces providing essential services and being the voice to the voiceless. NGOs continue to contribute in many ways to the development of the country. Many of these NGO groups operate on funds sourced from abroad, yet fill up necessary gaps far and wide in terms of social, environment, and economic left by the government.
You'll find when everyone is involved, the way you planned this plan, your community will be a better prepared community.
Environment and forestry are sectors that NGO groups are heavily involved with. About 70% of Papua New Guinea's landmass is covered by forest. The country is also the second largest exporter of tropical timber after Malaysia. But despite this, our people still receive the smallest share in large-scale logging operations. Our forests also remain a threat to illegal logging.
Mi pula man natin bulo pelesa, mi pula no bosim company. Gaman big pula gaman bulo yumi, mi bosim molde sula something na. Tapos big pula gaman bulo yumi, yarim lukim karaim bulo mi pula na, ebi mi pula pesim. Tapos gaman itrim long, lukim sampula rote mi no good na. Lukim mi pula complain bulo mi pula true.
Ang bakarap mo sa wara na orisep diway company bakarap mo respect mo orisep diway sa blong kamapim good pla look also environment green stab people na company am demit si morgata na place am look good so mi lookim dis pala na am good pla tumas ang thinking blomi sa company no respect mi pla long place and working nothing na baka may environment by no look also before because I may go inside ng wara, I may demit sim wara or mambu or some kanda or nalpa something where it got used bring him some kanda may plus I use him long pass him sack na mambu or working mouse working blind also something also
ibagarapinis na ibagarapinis all belong situation we ibagarapinis na ibagarapinis all belong on certain kingdom na place wara belong kisim kingdom na malew we you know na belong pain.
Bear in mind that over 80% of our population live in rural areas and are heavily dependent on our forests. PNG's constitution allows for the public to mount legal challenges against government decisions. But many times, rural people are left in confusion and are misled. The Center for Environment and Community Rights, also known as CELCO, is one organization that defends environmental and customary rights.
Selco, in fact, is the only law firm, not-for-profit law firm in the country. And the demand for our assistance is very huge. But due to limited resources, we cannot go to all these places. But at the moment, we have covered almost all the coastal provinces.
The organization has 4 major programs: provide legal advice, policy research and law reform, community legal education, campaign advocacy and networking. They try to make legal advice readily available to rural communities. There are also other NGO groups such as Partners with Melanations who work on conservation and community development in rural areas.
We do biodiversity and conservation. We also do a consensus building process. We also do literacy programs. We also do sustainable livelihood alternatives. We also have the program of climate change and community reforestation.
Welcome back to Olsem Wanem as we look at the struggles of NGO groups as they reach out to areas that have not been reached by government services. In this segment, we move on to humanitarian NGOs. Sexual health information and reproductive health services remain inaccessible to many people in Papua New Guinea. Antenatal coverage rates are low, supervised delivery rates are low, contraceptive use is low, and support of male counterparts is merely absent. But there is one NGO group that has taken the lead in educating people in rural areas on sexual reproductive health and services, as well as involving PNG men in taking the lead in family planning.
In a country where 80% of its population resides in rural areas, service delivery remains a challenge. This year, the country reported a high rate of infant mortality rate as well as maternal mortality rate. The country's health sector is under-resourced, with service unavailable, inconsistent, or of low quality. Antenatal coverage rates are low, supervised delivery rates are low, and contraceptive use and family planning is also very low.
When a woman of reproductive age accesses family planning, she is able to space her child and she is able to decide how many children she has as a reproductive goal. Now that's important for a woman because if she is able to space her child, she is able to look after to the best of her ability, not just her and her husband, of course, to look after a child to the best of their ability to ensure that this child is brought up in a safe environment and also to reach full potential. Now when I say that, what I mean is that if a child is born too close together, then the risk or the chances of the child dying before the age of or before their 5th birthday is very high, even their 1st birthday, it's very high. Because they are too close together, not enough attention is given to the child who's come first.
Marie Stopes is one organization that has taken the lead in educating people in rural areas on sexual reproductive health and services, as well as involving PNG men in taking the lead in family planning.
There are a lot of challenges in having to deliver services in family planning, but one that stands out most for me in service delivery is the literacy rates, and it's more of illiteracy rates, because understanding, especially at the level of people in the rural areas, can be quite difficult, given we have diversity in our languages. Again, intermarriage causes more issues with having to communicate to our people. So it's as simple as when you get a family planning method, you can describe it in English and Pidgin and Motu. As you go more into the rural areas, it becomes complicated and complex.
When asked about the community's response to the work of Marie Stopes, Dr. Edith described it as very welcoming, despite many barriers.
They're very happy. They're overjoyed. Some places we've visited have never seen any form of service delivery, not just family planning, but any sort of service delivery, and not just health, mind you. And for us to go, it's like a blessing for them. We have mothers who come out and tell us their testimonies of just being there, not even to give a service, but just to know that people are going to give information is very important and touching for them in their lives.
Dr. Edith also mentioned that lack of information on sexual health and reproductive services is also an issue in urban areas.
Interesting thing is we make assumptions that being in a city you have the access, but we found that's not the case. When we first began, we decided to go out into rural areas, but we realized that even those closer to us didn't have the necessary information to make choices about family planning. One such example is in schools. We have made the assumption that university students do have the knowledge about sexual and reproductive health, but we have found that's not necessarily the case. So that gives us a bigger picture to what we're up against in sexual reproductive health care in Papua New Guinea. I think it's just the knowledge and information, and so often we depend on the education system to teach us this. But with sexual reproductive health care, it's about your body. You need to know about yourself, whether you're just 14 or you're even going towards menopause at 60. At least at any stage in your life, a person needs to know what's happening to them. And I think it's up to everybody how they seek that information.
There are so many NGO groups around that assist the government in delivering services. The Forestry Forum hosted a seminar and exhibition to showcase the work of various NGO groups and the struggles they face. The event brought together various NGO groups to highlight the work that they do and the struggles they face.
The Forestry Forum hosted a seminar and exhibition to enhance visibility of members and partner NGOs. The theme for this seminar and exhibition is supporting responsible, sustainable green development, which supports the government's recently launched development strategy known as Responsible Sustainable Development Strategy. Also present was the National Planning Minister, Charles Abel.
So we are opening and extending our hand to the NGOs. This process, since I've becoming a minister, is about regenerating and reinvigorating this engagement and dialogue with the civil society. And it includes the churches, the private sector, and getting our partnerships improved with the development partners as well. And of course, the NGOs are very important. So that is why I'm here today. That is why we've got funding available. And we are looking for strategic partnerships to drive this new development paradigm. And many of you have been doing it already before this came along. It's not a new concept.
The event enabled NGOs to showcase to the government and the public on how NGOs equally contribute to the development, visions and goals of the country. Also present was Northern Province Governor, Honorable Gary Juffa.
I encourage criticism, and that is why the NGO and civil society movement is very important. Because they are always out there criticizing. They're always there debating, pointing out what's not right, pointing out what's wrong. And sometimes they come against a lot of forces, they come against a lot of hostility. But they are necessary. Criticism is necessary. I receive a lot of it myself on social media and so forth. And in usual forums like this, there's always someone who's going to criticize. criticism will come in volumes, and criticism will be between what is fact and also what is fiction. But in there, amongst all of that criticism, you will find important aspects of what you need to know, what you can take away, so that you can learn what you have to do. That's why I would like to encourage the civil societies, NGOs, to please continue with what you're doing. I want to thank the government for allowing them to do that, because that's important.
And of course, a lot of criticism did come out of the event from various NGO groups.
We've been doing a lot of focus on the extractive industries, and these are clearly very important for PNG's economy. They provide the revenue, but they really provide very few jobs directly. The LNG, once the project is up and running, which it is now, only provides a few jobs. It provides a lot of revenue down the track to the government, as have some of the major mines, like Octeni and Porgera and so on. But it's then essential that the government uses those funds wisely and effectively for enabling the rest of the economy to function and for services to get right down to the community. But as we know over the years, this hasn't really been happening very well. So a large portion of the public in PNG have been missing out on health, education and other services. So really the opportunity that comes from the extractive industries is dependent upon the wise utilization of those resources.
Is Transparency International as a group of people encouraging every one of you to be the watchdogs that we need to make sure that we are all treated fairly in this society. Unfortunately, when there are inadequate information systems, when people don't tell us the truth, when people hide in dark places and make plans for how things are going to happen, we miss out. Every one of you students at this university and every one of you students from the schools around Port Moresby and the schools in Papua New Guinea have opportunities to study what's going on and to insist on finding out what's happening.
As we look into the work of various NGO groups and the services they provide to the needy, we also feature the Office of the National Voluntary Service. This organization was created through an Act of Parliament on the 12th of April 1990. It was established by the late Bernard Narakobi, a philosopher, writer, lawyer, parliamentarian, diplomat, and leading citizen. In this segment, we see the work of their volunteers in the Maprit district of East Sepik province.
Purpose of it, why it was established back then, was because there was a need. The late Bernard Narakobi, he was the one that introduced the concept of volunteerism back then, and he saw the need that we can use this concept to help bring services to our people in the communities. He saw that the basic services provided by the government wasn't reaching far into the communities back then, maybe because of lack of manpower or resources. So by using the concept of volunteers doing volunteer work, we can extend the work of the government through this concept of volunteers by bringing in services like health, education, and agriculture services, different services to the communities.
We now take a look at some of their volunteers in Maprik, East Sepik province.
Mr. Panimidla NVS. Now, Mr. making big work in Salanslo community. Mr. saving plenty of places nearby village. Also, me come up as a volunteer blends la place la Aupik Tasol. Tasol me give him service la Narapla place mosem nearby village. It's lang os marasine mosem all money working long morotana. Some time ready come down marasinem call na. Gi all person sa kisi marasine sa helping to mas. Look him how me walk, no can go play table, no can go plan hap, put him on marasin, Mr. Kim Tasol one plan, Cabo Tasol na start. Na all the day, all patient on Sakam like is marasin. Even the night, even the morning, one kind time, and me service stable saving all patient. One time all labor all marry Sakam current beginning. Layo na katuan blong go pla proper hap long, help him all mama la current beginning. So me must go out the community. The house plan all help him all deliver.
As a volunteer, me work on the NVS service. Na me work with this community, Malang place inside the public district. This like examination room, the emergency room, me shall deliver him all mama. Na same time working examination. Any many cases, we are working on this lab room. So section and family planning, making sometimes we work in family planning, making all pills, na give depot, lol mama. This is emergency drugs belum stable. So me been joining National Volunteer Service law 2001. So I'm just like 10 belum joining NVS now. Me am mas lo work one time National Volunteer because me got this hard lo helping people.
Kevin and his team arrive here at a very critical time for this family. This young man urgently needs serious medical attention. His condition is worsening by the day, and Maprik District Hospital is so many kilometers away. Getting to the main highway to catch a PMV would require many hours of walking, and this man is unable to do this, given the condition he's in.
Samson!
Hello. You come.
Hey, Miki mana?
I'm going to buy.
Inap lo you plus sanat minno kat good plan bete by we put him in the heart. Okay, thank you.
I'm by the people house here. Not during ambulance. I blend to a by blend and come out here.
Bete I go ya I mi long na I by doing ya. That's all. I'm long car now and buying me hard now.
I'm buying me hard now.
Such is the dilemma faced by many of these communities.
And that's all for this episode. We'd like to thank ECHO Forestry Forum, the National Voluntary Service, and all other NGOs who participated in this episode. Next week, we take a look at responsible alcohol consumption. So if you have any comments or stories you would like to share, please contact us via the address on your screen or visit us on our Facebook page. For now, enjoy the rest of your viewing.